Welcome to this broadcast with Zenith Energy, and I'm happy to welcome CEO Andrea Cattaneo to the studio. Welcome, Andrea.
Good morning.
You are here to discuss the development of the company, and there have been some certain events.
Indeed.
Financial preparedness for arbitration, ICSID, your potential biggest asset. My question here is Zenith fully funded to complete ICSID, the third and major arbitration expected to have hearings in Q2 2026, and to file the application for annulment of ICC-2 in Lausanne? Will any extra capital be required? And
I can confirm that we are fully funded, and we are able to complete the two big files, the ICSID in Washington for 503 million, and a very significant for us annulment procedures in Lausanne. In fact, we are working 24/7 in both of them because their due date is imminent, only a few weeks.
Okay, it's kind of technical, so I need to read a lot from my notes here to get it correct. Interpreting the ICC-2 arbitration outcome, the outcome of the second ICC arbitration, ICC-2, was a significant disappointment. Essentially a complete dismissal of Zenith's approximately US 130 million claim. How do you interpret this ruling, and what do you believe were the key reasons behind such a result? And more importantly, what implications does this outcome have for Zenith's strategy going forward in terms of pursuing justice and compensation?
Instead of using my words, as is a highly technical subject, I prefer to read the quote of Professor Claes, which is the leading arbitration authority of France, which is one of our two lawyers in the three arbitration cases. So he declared, after 32 months of proceedings marked by numerous incidents that the arbitral tribunal proved unable to resolve and equally unable to maintain proper control over the proceedings, the tribunal has issued a 70-page arbitral award with only 6 pages of reasoning, dismissing in 6 pages all the claims totaling $130 million. This was done while refusing to apply the applicable legal rules and contradicting a prior arbitral award. The countless cases of procedural irregularities were systematically recorded as formal objection, which will invoke in the annulment proceedings to be filed imminently.
Okay, thank you. Challenging the ICC-2 verdict, you have indicated that serious procedural irregularities were identified during the ICC-2 proceedings, and Zenith plans to file an annulment application before the Swiss Federal Supreme Court. Could you elaborate a bit of the nature of these irregularities and how they undermine arbitration process? Furthermore, how confident are you that the Swiss court will grant an annulment of the ICC-2 award, potentially allowing the case to be reheard by a new tribunal? And what is the timeline for this legal course of action?
I cannot speak in details about what will be the content of our annulment application. This is in preparation, and certainly we want to reserve till the last moment the clarification of the format of our complaints and the request of annulment. But just speaking strategically, for what is interesting most for the investors is the time of a victory and then enforcement and then distribution of dividend. This doesn't change much. There is only a delay for the 130 million that we were seeking in the ICC-2 case, but the ICSID case is imminent, is just April 2026. And so then, while now we are working 24/7 to make this case application perfect with the final request by the tribunal, and by the procedures. We will then enter in the final stage of this activity, which is only 6 months before the very important hearing, which culminate 5 years of Tunisian investment and then sequestration and damages and arbitration. So I think that we are very near to the end, anyhow.
Okay. Pursuing the ICSID arbitration treaty-based case, Zenith is pursuing a claim of 503 million under the UK-Tunisia bilateral investment treaty. How does this ICSID case differ from the ICC arbitration in terms of scope and legal basis? And why do you believe Zenith can win the ICSID?
It is fairly clear. The ICSID is a different type of entity from the International Chamber of Commerce. It's sitting in Washington. Its full name, as you can see, our investor can see visiting the website of the ICSID, which says the ICSID, the World Bank, is an institution that has been created at the initiative of the World Bank to compensate and to try maybe to compromise on claims by investors that have invested in an emerging country with the protection of a treaty which has been made long ago with framed treaties between state and state. In our case, the applicable treaty is the treaty between United Kingdom and Tunisia. So the ICC cases, ICC-1 and ICC-2, represented contractual breaches and then sequestration, I would say robbery of money and asset and licenses. But then these same things represented in the ICC-1 and ICC-2 fall under the ICSID because they are breaches of the treaty. So the ICSID in Washington is an umbrella case which covers all the sufferance that we have had at the initiative of the ETAP, the state oil company of Tunisia, and the Republic of Tunisia itself.
Okay.
As the case number 1 has been already won, demonstrated the legitimacy of our claims, we are fully confident that a case of such importance, like the ICSID in Washington, and with such a high quality tribunal composition, court composition, will certainly find our claims very legitimate and will judge accordingly.
Okay, and we move on to settlement versus legal resolution. Have you considered a settlement with Tunisia?
Of course, we are an industrial company. We are not a legal company. So we have made recourse to legal action, not 1, 3 arbitration, which I remember to our investors is a very rare case that the company has 3 shots to his case, while the majority of company, they have normally 1 arbitration. And but we have recourse to this very important commitment financially and in human resources to make 3 arbitration simply because we were sequestrated. If not, our idea is to do business. So if the Tunisian will come with a practical and convenient settlement proposal, we will discuss it immediately.
Okay, and
so far has not happened.
No. Let's move on to your strategic development and operations. Your strategic development and long-term vision is in your latest press release. You mentioned several acquisitions of development portfolios in solar energy. Can you provide more detail on these initiatives and how they align with the company's long-term goals?
Yes, we have to remember that even when we invested in Tunisia, we had other branches of our industrial activity in other countries and as well in other type of activity. For example, in Italy, we started in 2014 to produce electricity. This confidence in producing electricity that the Italian experience gave us has made us clicking on the idea that the electricity was a good field with obviously a very long future, in which we want to invest and learn. And so we pass to the largest producer of electricity, which are the renewable, photovoltaic and eolic. And to start with, we have started in early 2025 to create a portfolio of photovoltaic asset.
Maintaining operational momentum with the legal case timeline stretching into 2026, how does Zenith plan to maintain momentum in day-to-day operations and continue building the business in the meantime?
I would say that we have a tremendous momentum. If you look at the number of press releases that we publish and the number of acquisitions that we have done in the last 4 months, we started at the start of the year thinking to have a target of 20 mega of capacity by the end, so 31st of December 2025. And today we can see from the announcement of yesterday that we have already reached 50. So from a target at the end of the year of 20, now we are already 50, and it depends to other consideration that I will discuss with you later, how far we go before the year end ourselves. So 50 is not the end of it. So there is a big quantity of news and news flows for the investors, and result and achievement that we have done in the solar activity. The other activity as well continue well. We have the production of electricity by gas, which is steady in Italy. And then there is, of course, despite the accident, which I call really an accident in ICC-2, the steady work, which is massive, of ICSID in Washington. Of course, the claims of 503, they are not just in the back of an envelope. They are massive, hundreds and hundreds of pages demonstrating why our claims are valid, are correct, and then the amount when we will make the next filing in September will vary depending on other things that have happened in the meantime, difference in market prices of commodities, additional breaches that the Republic of Tunisia has performed continuously. So there is very much a momentum with news in the most appealing case, which is the legal case, but as well in an industrial development of the company. In a way, we are clearly looking not somebody making a claim, but somebody that has a very strong base anyhow, an industrialist, and then making a claim to seek justice.
Thank you. And you mentioned your gas, and your gas power operations are profitable, but these new solar acquisitions are capital intensive. How do you plan to finance them?
Yes, we have to look always to learn to the peers. There are a lot of peers as well in Scandinavia, Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, Finnish, Luxembourg-based funds, and then all these companies, they have a similar goal to us, to create an important portfolio, and they make recourse to debt, or they make recourse to the equity of their shareholder if they are listed. But we have seen that a lot of companies, they have eventually in Italy, which is, of course, in this case, the country where we focus at the moment, reach a too dangerous situation, which is a portfolio that is scattered in the quite, different peninsula of Italy, in many different places. And second, sometimes difference in permitting, because Italy is divided in many regions, which they have a certain autonomy about rules, limited, but a certain autonomy. So then things that can happen in a few months in a place can take years in another. And then debt, is easy to have debt in photovoltaic because the banks are very prone to finance photovoltaic, as they have the automatic crediting of the electricity, which is sold daily. So then there is a strong security, better than other industrial activity. But nevertheless, to be with the bad portfolio and with a scattered geographical situation and an excessive amount of debt is something that we want to avoid. So our philosophy that we have developed is that we will create a portfolio very intensively and fast moving. We will have the financing, but we will always seek that our component of the portfolio can at any one moment be sold in a way that we have a actual test about the quality of our portfolio. If somebody want to buy it, should be good. And after making due diligence, and then we have an automatic access of cash, which can reduce debt or give cash for additional alternatives.
Well, then what is the profitability in these portfolios of solar parks?
The profitability is remarkable. Just to say that we have made internally a study of what our portfolio of 50 mega will produce as it is, so at 50 mega. So taking this figure as an example, with 50 mega in production, and being with the relation between north of Italy and south of Italy of, let's say, 35 mega in the north and 15 in the south, as example, which is more or less what we have. And then the income gross for the next 20 years is 100 million euro, which is quite an important figure. How we arrive to 100 million euro is the calculation for the first 10 years of the future of electricity in Italy, and then making instead prudent adjustment for the following 20 years, and so arriving following 10 years, so arriving to a total income of gross income of 100 million for 20 years. To this, you have to deduct the cost of maintenance, the cost of cleaning of the panel, the cost of maintaining the vegetation around the panel below under control in a way that there is no disturb to the irradiation. We have as well for this calculation consider the differential between the solar irradiation in the north of Italy, in our case Piedmont, and in the center sud of Italy, which is Lazio and Puglia, in our portfolio, because as you may imagine, the irradiation, even in Italy, between north and south, varied substantially. And of course, we have to, in this 100 million gross income, we have as well to let people considering the financial adjustment, amortization, depreciation, and then the final abandonment of the solar park, which can be after not 20 years, which is in our prudent calculation, but after 35 years. So as you can see, is a profitable business which has its own traps. I think that the most important traps is the geographical choice and then the severity of the permitting investigation.
Okay, and essentially, how can investors, what can investors look at in terms of operational milestones and performance while these arbitrations are ongoing?
Okay, so milestones are important because investors in a listed company looks always to news flows, which are the transparent information of the company of what is going on. So one of the most imminent in only a few weeks is the filing of the ICSID final documentation by the claimant, which is Zenith Group. Then the filing in front of the Swiss Federal Court in Lausanne of the annulment procedure by our side, the request in ICC-2. And then in October, the final verdict on the S&P case. Of course, before and around this date, there may be additional announcement of other acquisitions, which can even be comprehensive of an expansion in production of other sort of energies, always in the space of electricity production, of course. The key milestone for 2026 is, of course, the construction of finally of some of these solar park in practice, with the panel being installed and then going into the grid, so in production, possibility of buying more assets, so increasing our solar park portfolio. Then maybe some announcement of the application in practice of our philosophy of selling some of our asset to a third party, which can be an important utility or a fund. In doing so, we are not just getting a check, we are creating as well an alliance. Because if people see that we have made the right things, that the due diligence shows how our permitting has been severe, they have seen as well the creation of a cluster, like the one we have in Piedmont. So they say, well, these guys, they have made all the right things, so let's keep in touch with them to buy additional asset in the 27 or 28. So this is an important alliance. Then in the meantime, months pass, there will be the award of the ICSID, which we are very confident about. And then we have as well to hear back from the old friends of the Republic of Congo about the $5.7 million that are owed to us.
Okay. And how is the process of enforcing the judgment of ICC-1 going? And when do you expect to receive the $10 million that the court awarded ETAP to pay Zenith?
We are very busy in doing that, but unfortunately enforcement is a very legalistic process, and I cannot say much about it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to financial outlook and shareholder confidence. Aside from the arbitration-specific cost, can you clarify whether Zenith is in need of any external financing over the next 12 to 18 months for either legal or operational purposes?
Yes, so I think that we maintain our statement that we will be able to make the legal activity, which is what sometimes appeal most to our investors, without additional capital raises. What instead is clear that our development of solar activity may well bring us to consider or to meet the opportunity of a peer that will sell some asset, maybe at a cheaper rate than in the market for whatever financial reason. Then in this case, if we have to snap an acquisition, it is possible that we may require not only debt, but as well some equity injection. But this will be in a case of something that will be incredibly value accruing of the company, of the stock value. So I think that this will be, if and when, a very good news anyhow for the investors. We plan to have our financial development in a steady way by debt. Debt is not so negative in the case of photovoltaic, as I suggested before. The photovoltaic equipment will be mortgage in favor of the bank. Then the proceeds are going through our bank account, and so there is a very heavy security on income. The sun is not supposed to disappear, and so there are very many accidents in economy today, any sort of unexpected tariff and things, but at the same time the sun is shining every morning, and especially in the part of the world where we are working, and so this energy, which is very much in demand, will flow in the bank's coffer, and so then will create a easy situation for debt. So this is our comfort, that we are not making recourse to the shareholders for the solar activity.
If we look at the recent happenings, Zenith's share price has fallen by almost 80% in a relatively short period. In your view, what are the main factors behind this steep decline, and most importantly, how do you respond to shareholders who are alarmed by the drop?
Well, I would say that we have, like for justice, confidence that the market is always right in the long term. But I think that in our case at the moment, we are seeing a sort of nervous and disappointed reaction that has brought people to sell the shares, and so we have had such a dramatic reduction of our stock price. Nevertheless, the stock price has gone down, can go up. And so we are confident that through various forms of communication, for example, understanding our solar park strategy and practical process, understanding how sizable and well documented is the ICSID claim, which will be more understandable by investors, because differently from ICC, the ICSID has a website in which our case is with some principle, not in detail, but described and kept adjourned every day. No? There are news potentially being published by the ICSID website every day. And so through research that will explain the quality of what we have achieved or what we are, and then giving number, then the emotional reaction of a shareholder will be then evolving in a scientific assessment of what is the worth of one of our shares. The board is one of the most invested board that we see around, certainly in UK. Myself, I have in excess of 16%, and then in excess of 10%. Other directors are with us in the shareholder list, and so we are depending on the calculation, if diluted or undiluted, we are reaching important amount. Our CFO, which has 3% of the company, has purchased shares yesterday, and has made, of course, the required press release which appeared this morning to the eyes of the investors. Myself, I plan to buy shares today. As you know, we directors, we cannot buy shares at our leisure. There are only few regulatory windows in which we are not in possession of confidential information, and in which then we could buy. Myself, I could buy before the big acquisition in which we announce on Monday morning, on Sunday for the Oslo boards, and Monday morning for the English boards, following the different rules, simply because we had this opportunity to snap 30 mega portfolio from somebody, which is a great quality, in which Zenith has a long track record to be opportunistic, speedy, quick to snap acquisition, which pass by and before somebody else snap it instead. So I think that all these qualities should give the confidence to the shareholders that we are worth much more. There are studies circulating in the market in this sense. And so I think that the fact that we buy as director as much as we can with the limit of regulations, and the fact that the numbers that are appearing as future income are growing and growing, then the sentiment will bring the stock price back above 1 NOK.
Thank you. I actually had a follow-up question there about skin in the game from you in the management team and board. Anyway, lastly, what would you like to say directly to Zenith long-term shareholders who might be worried about issues such as dilution, ongoing legal uncertainties, and the recent poor share price performance? And how would you address the concerns and convince them to stay the course? And feel free, please, to share the key reasons on why you believe Zenith's future, and why you think patient investors will ultimately be rewarded for the trust in the company.
I think that we should reason together. The company, when he won the ICC-1, which was a tremendously important psychological victory, because he gave the confirmation that our legal case was right, The sentence of ICC1, despite the smaller amount, was above 100 pages in total size. And then the amount of pages dedicated to the reasoning were many, many, many. So there was a very well built sentence, which everybody from both sides respected, and a great arbitration award. And that is the proof of concept, because the fact if somebody take away from you a pen or take away you the car, is the same principle, no? Is robbing you of something, no? So the fact that we have been awarded a sentence saying, no, the pen is absolutely belonging to you, then is a confirmation that you are right, no? So basically we have to remember that our legal case is confirmed and is strong. The same case applies to all the same factor, the same legal base applies to all the 3 arbitration procedures. So that is the base for which we are so confident about the ICSID. The ICSID is a very important tribunal based in Washington with a lot of gravitas. The court composition is equally made by members, the 3 members, all having their own significant reputation and curriculum vitae and position in the arbitrational world. So we are confident that the justice will reward us in this case. In the meantime, this was the same scenario that we had when the stock started to fly from 50 euro to 70, 1 and above 1 at the start of the year, no? Reaching then 2 Norwegian krone and then eventually 2.30, 2.40. But what has changed instead, importantly, is the fact that at that time we were a legal company with some industrial activity. Now instead we have already formed a portfolio that will be very substantial as industrial and cash flow. So then we not only we have the same comfort, I believe, if somebody can reason. If not, we will not make an annulment procedure in front of the Supreme Federal Court in Lausanne, that our rights are the same, that was just an accident, and the ICSID case will do well. But on top of that, we have developed an industrial side of the company. So as we are shareholders, I can share with my fellow investors my total confidence and the board confidence that we have a great future.
Okay, that was all my questions for today. Andrea Cattaneo, thank you so much for this business update.
Thank you to you.
And thank you to everyone that has been watching. See you again.